This conference will now be recorded.
Well, thank you all for joining me. As Bob was saying a second ago, today we may have a little bit of, oh, I see somebody logging in. Let's see who it is. We'll wait just a second to get started. Ah, there's Patrick from Ireland. See, I'm glad you're here, Patrick, because I was telling everybody that we have folks all the way from Ireland joining us.
Well, look at I had awful problem. I did an upgrade on my computer, and it then went into uh, preparing to reconfigure, and it went for 15 minutes. Look, anyway,
Oh boy.
we'll get over it.
All
We'll
right.
get over it. Great to see you guys.
Good to see
Yeah,
you
well,
too.
we're glad you're here.
Thank
And you
you.
haven't
Thank
missed
you.
anything because we're just starting. So, well, thank you all again for joining me. As Bob was saying a second ago, just before I started the recording, we may have a little bit of a light crowd today because it is summer, at least here in the U.S. So people are out and about enjoying the good weather, and maybe they're still recovering from the coronavirus and trying to have business meetings in person. But the good news is the important people are all here. So we'll get started. Um, this meeting has three parts. The first part is everybody can do an introduction of themselves, what their business or service is, maybe where they are geographically, certainly who would be a good potential client or a good referral so we can keep eyes and ears open to refer business to each other. Uh, Second part of the meeting is I'm hoping those introductions trigger some follow up questions. Maybe somebody wants to dig in a little bit deeper into what it is that you do. And the third part of the meeting is we'll open it up for a general business conversation. And like I always say, with everything that's going on, not only here in the US, but even internationally, I'm sure we'll have no shortage of topics to talk about and bang back and forth. And like always, my goal is to get everybody out of here somewhere between here on the U.S. East Coast, 2:45 to 2:55, so 45 to 55 minutes after the hour, so you can take a break and get ready for your next video chat. So that's pretty much it. I will start since we have some people that are have done this regularly. We'll kick us off. So, Rhoda, why don't you kick us off, please, and just introduce yourself and where you are and what a good referral for you is.
Hi, everyone. I'm here in Indianapolis, Indiana, in the center of the country, and we have a very hot, very nice day here. My team and I are called Say It For You because we are ghost writers, primarily of blog material and articles that go on our clients' websites. The idea is that most business owners and professional practitioners simply don't have the time to do it and also say it. So we say it for them. Our team is all here centered in Indiana, but the clients are all through Canada and the United States. And um, increasingly, we are subcontracting our work to marketing agencies. So if you know a marketing agency that is looking for writers, because interestingly enough, you would think that a marketing agency, that's what they do, they market, so they should be able to write their content. But interestingly enough, they don't have time to do that either. They do everything else. They're doing the ads, they're doing the video shoots, they're doing, the newspaper interviews, but they don't have time to sit there and consistently post different, good, recent content. So that's where Say It For You comes in. So if you know a good marketing agency, that would be absolutely perfect.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much. And Bob, I know you've done this a bunch of times too. If you could take a minute or two to introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Thanks, Sal. My name is Bob Maloney. I'm a consultant. My business is expense reduction analysts, and I'm located in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. I work with business leaders to help them execute their plans, and I help them to do that by finding opportunities to reduce their expenses in ways they didn't consider possible. Everything that I do is self-funding, and all of the savings converts to cash flow. Nothing interferes with their personnel. Although we do payroll services, we don't touch their personnel. The value that I'm able to provide is that I can um, access a level of expertise in over 40 different cost categories that my competitors are not able to do. And that ranges very broadly from uniforms and linens on the low end to shipping and freight and factory consumables on the high end. Again, Bob Maloney with Expense Reduction Analyst.
Boy, Bob, you just mentioned something. I want to ask you a question after we're done with the introduction, so please don't let me forget.
Okay.
Um, okay, Patrick.
Hi,
Same thing.
hi,
If you
how
could
you
take a minute
doing?
or two to.
Thank you, Sal. And I was glad you let Rhoda go first because it proves the age of chivalry has not yet passed. Thank goodness for that. And look, it's great to be here, and I want to kind of talk about how it's now possible to reimagine our health because science is now pointing to a whole new level of health, the cellular level, using groundbreaking redox technology impacting every organ and function in the body, including fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, and overwhelm. Now, this is very much related to every problem in the body is related to how our cells communicate. We, Many of us didn't understand this until now, but we do get signals, we do get communication in the most complex system in the world, our bodies. And it all starts with amplifying and clarifying the critical cell signaling, and the difference it is making in most people's lives is absolutely astonishing. For instance, we get a signal when we're hungry or thirsty or cold, or as Rhoda said, she's very warm today with the sunshine. That's a signal. We get all these signals. We go signal to go to the bathroom in the middle of the day or the middle of the night. So every second of every day, our cells are passing tremendous amounts of information throughout the body, and any breakdown in that signaling and communication, we cannot be fully healthy. For many people, this is now the missing link for better health and vitality. It's independently validated. It's 100% non-toxic, enabling us to have a real advantage. The kind of people I'm looking for are people who have a health challenge, people who are health conscious, or people who are wishing to explore an additional income stream. Now on 4 continents or 33 countries. And listen, thanks for the gift of your attention. My details are in the chat. Well,
Oh
will be.
yes, that's
Thanks,
the
Patrick.
benefit of having veterans on here. Please put your contact information in the chat because later tonight I will share a copy of the video and I will also include your contact information from the chat. So please don't forget to do that. So Ken, I think you've had three wonderful examples. Could you do the same thing, please, and give us your introduction?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ken Westrick. I'm the owner of Comp Solutions LLC. We're located in the eastern suburbs of Pittsburgh, PA. My company offers IT services to other small to medium-sized businesses. Some of those services include cybersecurity, managed services, your network, whether it's hardwired or Wi-Fi, troubleshooting hardware software issues. We also, resell a lot of hardware software. We install it, we configure it, we support it, and again, just troubleshooting and tech support. The bulk of our business is in Western Pennsylvania, but we're open to really any business in the United States. Again, Ken Westrick, Comp Solutions LLC.
All right, excellent. Thank you. And I'll do my introduction, which sometimes I forget to introduce myself. I have so much fun with these meetings. Uh, but my name is Sal Acosta. I am a business broker. I help people buy and sell businesses. Now, since they come in all shapes and sizes, I usually deal with businesses that have anywhere between 10 and 250 employees, revenues anywhere between zero to a maximum of 10 or $20 million for the year. and net positive cash flows somewhere between hopefully at least break even to about a million or two for the year. And as we were talking about also, I think before we started the recording, I used to do a 2 hour driving radius around Pittsburgh before coronavirus. But now that everybody's been forced to learn to use the video chat technology, learn to do have, business over Zoom, trust people on the screen at least as much as you would in real life. I've been working with people all over the U.S., which has been interesting and exciting and invigorating for me. So, if you or anybody you know wants to buy or sell a business, please let me know. Um, and that's it for the introductions. Again, don't forget to put your contact information in the chat. Um, does anybody have any questions from anybody else based on the introductions?
Okay, Ken, I've got a question.
Sure.
What is an ideal size of client that you work with?
Are you
It
asking me?
varies. It varies greatly, Bob. Anywhere from say 2 PCs to 50 PCs, typically. A lot of times you get above that 50 PC threshold, they usually have a full-time IT person or a small IT staff. So as a ballpark, 2 to 50 PCs typically, but that number can vary from company and industry.
Okay. And if I understood correctly, so typically where they don't have internal IT support.
Yes, sir. It's typically they don't have internal IT support. Sometimes, if they do have internal IT, they'll still use our service. But I would say the majority of the time they try to keep the internal IT folks busy.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
Let's see, Rhoda first, and then Patrick.
Okay, first I have a couple questions for Bob. When you say you're going to save money on paper goods or whatever for a company, are
Hmm.
you actually investigating outlets for them or orders? Places where they can order less expensively. What do you actually do when you're doing this analysis?
That's a great question, Rhoda. So what we do is it's essentially a four-step process. So the first step is to complete a baseline analysis that shows what their spends look like as of today. We do that at an enterprise level, and we also do it at a category level. Then from there, based on feedback from the client, we then go out to market and seek bids, uh, allow those bids to come back, and we present the client with a set of options that includes their incumbent supplier at reduced costs, as well as alternatives at reduced costs, as long as the service level and quality are equal or better. And then we take responsibility to implement any changes and monitor the expenses over 24 months to make sure that what was agreed to at the options or at the RFP was maintained throughout the life cycle. And we try to position the client so they can maintain it long term once we've completed our mission.
So what is the relative cost analysis? In other words, if I'm telling a business about you,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say, well, for the first year while you're doing this, it's going to cost you so much more than because they're going to be paying your fee, but you're going to save X, Y, Z. What's
Okay. Well, I could give you a real live example. So we just about 2 weeks ago we just presented a set of options to a client for their um, printers and copiers. It's they've got 13 locations and they've got 36 machines in the fleet. So we went out to market. The incumbent supplier came back with a bid that was about $17,000 in annual savings on roughly $100,000 in annual spend. The two other competitors, they came back with respectively 42,000 and 49,000 respectively. And the biggest difference between those bids was the incumbent, they negotiated on their service and their equipment price actually went up. The two competitors, they probably cut the service in half and I'm sorry, they cut the equipment in half, and the service was negligible at that point.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it kind of does, but I mean, it's very upfront as a business owner. Making that decision is very, very hard because they don't,
Oh
they
yeah.
know.
And if we don't find any savings, there is no fee. So we operate on a strictly success fee basis. I had another situation where we did something like what we went out to a market for what Ken does for a managed service provider. We were not able to find savings, particularly keeping in mind the service levels that the client was looking for. And what we ended up doing was we ended up going back to the client and providing them with uh, an equipment company that they could potentially buy some of their equipment at a lower price, and they could do that on their own, where we have actually no skin in the game. It was just to help them out.
Hmm, okay.
All right, Patrick, you had a question.
Oh, that's fabulous answer. A fabulous question, Rhoda, too, because there's so many moving parts here, and trying to, as Rhoda suggested, to have a confidence in a person like Bob, to. But I think it speaks that you are, unless there's a saving, you don't get paid.
Hmm.
Unless it's a genuine saving. But the bigger picture, going to bringing in Kenneth here. Kenneth, what has absolutely amazed me down the years is we have all this computing power, processing power, and when computers got going initially in the 80s, we were told by the government that it would save on staffing levels. Now, staffing levels have escalated, and people have a PC on their desk. Once upon a time, if you had a phone on your desk, you were made. You had a status. Now you have a computer and a phone, and you probably have a mobile as well. So where do you see all this going? There's so much information. How much of it do we need?
I mean, good question. I think technology's here to stay, and it seems to always be growing. Uh, I mean, obviously, one of the hot trends is working remotely. A lot of companies have really shrunk or reduced, or maybe even eliminated their physical office space, and have a lot, or most, if not, all of their employees working remotely is a trend that I see, and it's here to stay. I don't think it's going away.
Yeah, and there's a critique of a company in England where you and I are, we've a desk. You're over there and I'm here, and I send you an email. Well, I'll see you for tea. Will you have a coffee? This the unnecessary flow of some information instead of just talking to people.
Yeah. So Ken, let me ask you this question, and just to piggyback maybe a little bit on what you're saying and what Patrick is saying, because I keep reading about this, but I want to know if the reporters are cherry picking sort of these horror cases, or if it's really as widespread as they try to make it out to be. And my question is, as people work remotely, a lot of companies are monitoring them, and sometimes in a very intrusive fashion. And I mean by that, for example, I've been reading like, hey, they'll turn on your camera without even you knowing, and take a picture every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes just to see if you're there or if you left to walk the dog or something, and they monitor that you're moving the mouse, and they're monitoring that you're typing or that you're on a video chat. So basically it's almost like one of those electronic bracelets that people on parole use. So how widespread is that, or is it just individual organizations that are going over the top?
I think it varies greatly from company to company. Sell, it certainly exists. Um, I don't know where. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know where a company would infringe as far as if they've gone too far over the top. I mean, if they are an employee, I'm sure the company has some discretion to monitor their workload and work accomplishments and whatnot. Again, I think it varies greatly from company to company. Maybe it's a little stretch to say Big Brother is watching you, but yeah, there's certainly some monitoring going on, probably with any company that has a remote workforce for sure.
Okay. All right, but let me, not to put you on the spot or anything, just generically. I mean, do you, within your scope, have one or more clients that are actually doing some of this?
I'll say none of my clients have asked or approached me for that. Um, I think some of my clients uh, they're more on-premise related, meaning they could be in manufacturing, so it's not really a company or an industry that is real conducive for a remote workforce.
So, Kenneth, just a question there. Um, so if Bob was in a job and the people are not happy with him, and they said to Kenneth, we want to track what Bob's doing. He seems to be going to the toilet a lot, and then he goes out on his bicycle, and he's a bit of a dodger, and but we want to get some proof. Can you help us out? No, of course we'll pay you, but what would you say?
Uh, yes, I mean, I think I would take the assignment. Legally they have a right to do that. Now, as far as how far they take it, I mean that's up to the client. But yeah, there's certainly a number of remote monitoring packages, is a generic term out there that they legally have the right to use and put on an employee's PC. Yes.
In Europe, we have the data protection regulations that are very strong. I was up to speed with them about when they came out initially, but they've attenuated in my head ever since. But they really are strict. Well, they really were strict. But you see, you bring out a regulation, but the technology keeps driving. Keeps pushing the boundaries. So that's what's going on in Europe.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're talking about GPRS?
Yeah, GDPR, yeah,
Okay.
and I think it's good it's there. I think it's good it's there because we do have privacy, and I think we need to be aware of it, and we need to be able to protect our identities and our information. Because somebody is paying you doesn't mean, as they said. In that Full Metal Jacket, when the guys joined the Marines, I don't care what God you believe in, but God may have your heart, but the Marines have got your ass. I mean, that kind of we own you principle.
I
Right,
have,
right. Yeah, I
oh,
think a lot of companies are probably on the honor system, and they might not even
yeah,
enact that software or install a monitoring software until they have a problem with an employee that's on a
Yeah.
continuous
Thank you.
basis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rhoda, go ahead.
so I was going to share three things have happened in the last 3, 4 days to me that show technology and the power that technology has, both negative and positive. The first thing that happened was that people started getting emails from me, legitimate emails, but they had a warning, this is spam on it. And it took me, a consultant, a local person like Kenneth, but here, about $1,000 and 4 days to get that fixed with my email provider. So these are the kinds of things that can happen. This is a one computer, one woman business. Um, so I had a taste of all the things that could go wrong. The second thing is I tutor a student, a former student of mine who has become an English teacher in the 6th grade. These students have no textbooks, no books, no paper. All they have is a tablet that they've been provided by the school. And then they go into a source, like a library source, and they pull down the lesson and they pull down the story. So they don't learn anything about spelling or reading or taking care of a book. It's all been just technology. Then the third thing that happened is I opened up my newspaper today, my local Indianapolis Star, and there was an editorial, and the following sentence happened. He said, if you, no matter which side of the political spectrum you're on, he was discussing the abortion law issue. No matter which side you're on, if you don't take your cues from politicians, and the word cues was spelled Queues. So, in other words, he had gone through spell check, and so the word cues was spelled correctly, but it was totally improper for that sentence because the technology didn't help it out. And this is a published newspaper columnist. So I think technology needs to be tamed a little bit.
No, that's really interesting, Rhoda.
Yeah. Well, and not to belabor the point, but I always think I used to run some pretty big organizations at some point. If you have to monitor that people are moving the mouse or take a picture that to see that they're in front of their computer, to me that's always a symptom that you don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. There's no clear metrics, there's no accountability, there's no nothing. Because at the end of the day, what you want is results. You want certain projects to get done. You want some revenue, some profit, and if they can get that done for you in 10 minutes, then God bless them and more power to them. And if it takes them 10 hours, then it takes them 10 hours, and that's it. But it's not an issue of how much they wiggle the mouse, right?
Do you all get the cartoon in your newspaper called Dilbert?
Yeah, yeah.
It makes fun of that very thing about the corporate, getting stuff done and being monitored and all that.
Yep. Oh,
I
and let me tell you, I mean, there's people that are trying to reverse engineer this. I see it all the time where they come up with these things that, and to try to hide it as much as possible, they come up with these things that physically move the mouse every once in a while to so that the that it seems like you're there, but you're not really there. It's just this little thing kind of moving the mouse around.
but
Kenneth won't be doing that. He wouldn't do that. He's got a more fiber in him, you see. He won't be doing that.
Right.
I can share from personal experience though. It's to me this was more of something that I would consider more an acceptable um, uh, employment of security, shall we say? So I worked from home since 2014, and I worked in the accounts receivable management industry. And what 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 was employed was a security trap, I'll say, that would not allow you to download information. So I couldn't take a file from my laptop and download it to a zip drive because it potentially contained sensitive information that would have been that would have put the company at risk. And to me, that actually made sense. But on the flip side, that the monitoring situation, you have to have a to me you have to manage your people effectively and have a sense of be able to trust them, particularly in a remote environment. Chances are, if you work with them face to face, you probably know whether or not you can trust them before you let them go
Yeah.
into a remote working situation.
Oh, I mean, not to get too much on my soapbox here, but here's what I will say about how much things have changed. Okay, I started working full time back in 1986, and when I started working full time back in 1986, a lot of us were, sort of rookie engineers, just graduating from college. We would take our textbooks into work because we thought we might need them for reference. So, we had our cubicle, we had our textbooks there, and whatever. And if you were going to change jobs, if you quit, you would actually tell your boss, you'd give them a 2 week notice, which, realistically, even back then, you couldn't hire somebody in 2 weeks, but at least you could kind of transfer your projects to some other engineer, tell them kind of what was going on. And you would just sit there and work for 2 weeks and try to transfer all these projects. And then at the end of 2 weeks, you take your books and you go somewhere else. Now you tell somebody that you're leaving before you're done saying the sentence, your passwords are gone, and you can't log in, and they're escorting you out the door, and some secretary says, "Hey, we'll take your personal stuff and put it in a box and send it to your address of records and see you later," and you're not even allowed to go back to your desk. And it's amazing how much I get it from both sides. I mean, it's because people have stayed on the job, and you reminded me they start downloading information, deleting information. So both sides have lost trust in each other, but it's kind of sad to me how much things have changed.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So, Bob, what's the smallest company that you would take?
Um, well, typically I work with businesses that are between 5 and 250 million in revenue.
Okay.
Probably the sweet spot is between 5 and 50 million. But the exception to that rule, Rhoda, would be in hospitality. So there could be um, uh, restaurant, for example, that is below the $5 million mark on revenue, but their expenses are well over $1 million. And food services is one of the categories that we work with.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I've got a question for you. What is what is that like either an ideal center of influence or contact for you within an organization?
Probably the marketing director, because that's their job, and they know what they cannot provide.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that when you go on a website, you yourself go on a website to look for whatever it is, and you see that it says the word blog, there's a tab for a blog, and then you click on it, and the latest entry that they have was 6 months to 6 years old. So they've kind of lost the point. They understood that they needed to do this, and they just simply couldn't do it anymore. So that's an ideal prospect, because here's somebody that knows how to do it, that can get it going again.
That is definitely interesting. So, and when you say an ideal prospect, so do you need an inside contact there, or do you just want to know about a case where
Obviously,
that is?
I don't do cold calls at all, or cold prospecting. So it's better to have some kind of a contact, at
Mm-hmm.
least where you know the name, even if you don't know the person real well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, that's helpful.
Okay. Hey, Bob, let me mention something for you, and maybe for you, Ken, since you're over here in the Pittsburgh area. But you reminded me when you talked about linens. Let me just say this, and I can send you guys some stuff in the email after the phone call, or the video chat. Right now, I'm representing a commercial laundry, for sale. So now it's here in the Pittsburgh area, Bob. So I don't know for Kenneth too, but um, you reminded me because a lot of what they're a commercial laundry, not a laundromat, not a dry cleaner. They'll go out to restaurants, get their linens, go out to hotels, hospitals, airlines, whoever, anybody that uses linen sort of as an organization at a commercial scale. They'll bring them in, clean them, and send them back.
Mhm.
So if anybody's interested in buying that business, I would love to hear about it. And here's the thing that I learned, and here's why I love what I do. A lot of us go to, as just one example, Outback Steakhouse, right? And we get the nice little cloth napkin. I had always assumed that belonged to Outback Steakhouse. I had always assumed that somewhere in the back they have just a washing machine, and they wash these things, right? Well, it turns out they send them to a commercial laundry service. But it turns out that in a lot of cases, the guy that actually owns that linen is the commercial laundry service, and they rent it out to the restaurant to use, and then it goes back. And they even told me, so depending on the restaurant, the negotiations, the type of linen, the volume, this and the other thing, depending on these variables. But long story short, it's somewhere between 8 and 15 cents per napkin. And I got to tell you, ever since I learned that, I'm even like afraid to wipe my mouth on this napkin, because now I'm looking at this napkin and I'm saying, "Oh my God, here's 8 to 15 cents right here."
If you
Well,
don't wipe
listen.
your
Now,
if you don't wipe your mouth, they still have to pay the 15 cents.
Oh, that's very funny. Well, Sal, I've got a question for you. That particular business, did they do any linen service in the healthcare space?
I don't know if they do, but they certainly can because they have the equipment.
Well, the reason that I ask you is I have a contact. I don't know him personally. I'm connect with him on LinkedIn. But his company is it's Image First is the name of the company,
Okay.
and they have been they've been in acquisition mode. So they have been picking up smaller operations across the country. And I'd be, like I said, I don't know him, but I'd be happy to foster an introduction potentially if that would help you.
Oh, absolutely. I would appreciate that very much. And as soon as we get off the phone here, or once again the video chat, I'll send everybody here a copy of the sort of the listing summary, just so
Mhm.
at least you have something in writing beyond what I've said. But yeah, Bob, absolutely. If you could make an introduction, I would really appreciate it, because kind of like Rhoda said, it's a lot better to have a warm intro to a real person than just to be calling people at random.
And so, I mean, I've been following them for for a number, it's a couple of years actually, but and I've never actually met them, but I know that they're definitely scooping up companies.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, no, perfect. I would appreciate that. Okay,
So
guys.
Kenneth, one question for Kenneth. Do you take clients who are not where you are?
I do. Yes, yes, ma'am. If it can be done remotely, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I need a little bit more information in the chat from you, because I was thinking, Saul, to invite Ken to speak at Circle Business Network, the
Sure.
Indianapolis-based online networking group, and to talk about, answer some specific questions about their small business systems. And that can help you get some exposure, and so if you're interested, just give me like a phone number contact, as well as Ken at Comp Solutions LLC.
Sure.
Yeah. And by the way, that's a very nice group. I've been to some of their meetings, and Rhoda was nice enough a while back to promote me as a guest speaker. So it's a very nice group. It's a very good experience.
Okay, so okay, that's it. 412-551-0361. Okay, you will hear from us.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Well, listen, we're getting here to 2:43. So one last comment from anybody to anybody. One last let me I'll throw out one last topic just for people to react, and we'll call it quits for today. But I always like to ask, because two reasons. One, we're all business owners, small business owners in our own right, even if we're a solopreneur, as people call it now. And two, we are, a lot of us, in contact with a lot of small business owners. What do you guys see as the challenge? I'm going to say for the rest of this year and for all of next year, 2023. Is it inflation? Is it taxes? Is it the supply chain? Is it getting employees? And I know some of these are sort of correlated. Um, but what do you guys see as the single biggest challenge for the rest of this year and next year for small business?
Um, my thinking is that it's hard to keep all these moving parts and get a focus on them. So it's not what you earn, it's what you hold on to. It's what you manage to hold on to. That is, that's where the rubber hits the road. You know, you might be earning a lot of money, but how much are you holding on to?
Yeah.
No, that
You know,
makes a
it's
lot of
And
sense.
interesting
that's
that you
that's
say
that's
that.
where Bob is. That's where we'll all be ringing Bob. You know, we'll all be ringing Bob for his bedtime story. You know, and
No, no, listen, let me tell you this. And I was watching a video earlier today, and this is kind of a known problem, but this video was very well done with a lot of facts, a lot of figures, a lot of strategy. It was talking about the food delivery people. Okay, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Postmates, all those guys, and how they've got this tremendous volume, not only on their own side, but orders that they give to the restaurants. I mean, and yet they can't turn a profit because they can't charge the customer enough for the delivery. They can't charge the restaurant enough for the service. They're sort of in this middle no man's land between the restaurant and the consumer, but they can't charge anybody enough to make money. And so they're basically working off of the money from the venture capital. But at some point, you have to. So your choices are you either make money, you disappear, or you keep getting money from the venture capitalist guys forever. But I suspect it's going to be one of the first two more than the third one.
No, that's a great point. But you know something, Sal, that the companies like Amazon and Tesla, it took them some time to be able to get there too. So
Yeah.
I think that depending on the scale of the business, it could that there could still be some light, but it still comes down to how much patience you can have, and and what it's going to take, and you have to keep constantly tweaking your business model to make sure that you're on the right track.
I totally agree with you, Bob. And what I've discovered about myself lately is I was kind of doing it, but once I realized it, I'm feeling better about it. And it is this, that we have to be prepared to do the mundane over and over and over again. And you say, why am I doing this? I've done this before. I'm doing the same thing. I'm brighter than this. I want excitement here, but it's the mundane. If we can cope with doing the mundane, I think it is one of the primary characteristics of success.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right, guys. One last comment before we call it quits for today. Who wants to have the absolute last word? Somebody other than me.
I appreciate everybody having me, and it was great to meet and greet with everybody, and hope to see you soon again.
Ken, it's
Excellent.
great to
Well,
meet
I
you.
like that. And then that'll cue me to say, just remember, we'll do it in exactly 2 weeks. Monday at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time over here, and I'll send out the recording in the chat later today. And thank you all for joining me, and hopefully I can see everybody in 2 weeks again.
Thanks for hosting,
Thank you,
Sal.
Sal. Thank you.
All
You're
right.
wonderful. Thank you, Sal. Bye. Bye.
Bye
Bye.
now.
Bye.
All right, you guys
Bye.
take care.